So hi everyone and welcome to the next video of the tips and tricks lecture. In this video I would like to have a brief discussion with you on your audio setup, and I would like to review some different kinds of setup and what we could take care of in different scenarios. So before we start with the discussion, I think it's important to highlight first the importance of audience. So maybe you have realized it already, but for example, if you're going to stream a video or something like that, then probably you will find poor audio more disturbing than poor video. So if you have a freeze in the picture of the video, that's not a big deal. But if you have glitches and spikes in audio, this is very disturbing. And the same is true for online teachings and lectures and stuff like that. So poor audio is more irritating to the audience than some minor video flaws. And when I'm talking about poor audio, we have to consider two different aspects. The one is the absence of signal quality, which is the quality of your voice, of your recordings. And the second one, which is even more disturbing, is the presence of various disturbances, like for example the noise of your computer fan, or I don't know, your children practicing piano in the next room. So we have to consider audio quality from two dimensions, from the signal dimension and from the disturbance dimension. And with this knowledge, if you reflect on how you're practicing today, then if we are honest with each other, how many of us do check their audio quality? And if you check it, what do you check? So probably you check if you can hear everyone, maybe if you have a headphone, if it feels comfortable and stuff like that. But how do you check if your audience is experiencing a good sound? Most of the time, if you're honest again, can you hear me? Is my sound good? That's the baseline of how we check our audio. And so I think it's important to understand that audio quality needs some more attention than just, can you hear me? Okay? So before we can jump into a discussion on how to improve your audio setup and what to take care of, I think it's important to find some basic understanding of what contributes to audio. And for that discussion, let me switch to my whiteboard for a minute and let's take a closer look what audio really is affected by. So the first thing, which is pretty obvious, is that we have some signal. The signal that we use in that case typically is the contribution from the speaker from view. So this is basically the audio signal that we want to collect. Yeah, so as you probably can imagine, this is what you speak. Maybe if you have some additional aspects like a video, how the video quality, the audio quality of the video is, and all stuff like that. And this signal that you're producing by talking in the next step is going to the second step of our cause effect of our chain of effects, and this is basically the recording. And the recording basically is done by your microphone, which detects all your audio signal and processes it a bit and hands it over to some further instance which is doing the signal processing and stuff like that. So basically here we have our audio signal, and this audio signal is captured by our recording device, and that's what we want to have. Unfortunately, our recording device, like our microphone, does not only capture the audio, but it also captures different types of noise. So the signal that we use for the subsequent processing is somehow overlaid with a signal that we don't want to have, like a noise. This can be the sound of your computer fan, again the children playing piano, or whatever you have in the background of your recording place. So we have two input sources that are recorded and subsequently are put to the next step which is basically the audio processing or the signal processing. So we have the signal processing. The signal processing typically tries to enhance the audio. Maybe there is an equalizer which kind of flattens the different aspects of your voice, whatever comes to your mind. Lucky us, in the usage of tools like Teams or Zoom or something like that, we already have a pretty good signal processing on board, so we don't need to mention it. Good. So we have different aspects contributing to the final signal, which is in the end perceived by the audience right there. So what we need to mention now is that the quality of the signal is mostly affected at this place. So the question is what is coming into the recording and what is coming off. So the signal that we want to have, we typically want to improve, and the noise we typically want to reduce. So, and the ratio of these two elements has a certain name. It is called signal-noise ratio. The signal-noise ratio. And this is what we want to have as big as possible. Because if it is small and you have a high noise overlaid on your signal, then it's pretty difficult to improve it with signal processing. So the better the input signal in comparison to the noise, the better for later signal processing. And the good thing here is that this ratio can improve pretty easily, typically already by choosing your setup, choosing the position of the microphone and stuff like that. So let's take a closer look what this could look like and which typical sources for noise we can have. So let me go back to my presentation here. So how does our recording scenario look like? So basically what we have in our scenario is we have our speaker here on the left, which is you. You're producing a signal which is recorded by a microphone. And then we have different types of noise. So on the one hand, the obvious part, we have some noise coming from outside. This could be the children practicing piano, the car that is driving on the street, or maybe the dog who is barking. The second sound of noise, which you probably didn't expect, is directly from your computer. So this could be the fan of your computer or something else which produces some noise. And the third source of noise is basically you. So we also can create some noise by ourselves. For example, if you have a bad headset or a poor headset and the microphone is straight in front of your nose and your mouth, then you hear all the heavy breathing, and this can be kind of irritating for the audience. So what does this mean? Our relevant aspects that we need to consider are, on the one hand, the microphone quality, which is obvious. Then the second thing to consider is the noise. So which type of noise do we have? Where is it coming from? And the third and most relevant aspect in the end is the signal-noise ratio, how to improve the signal over the noise. And for this point, some basic knowledge on physics is important, because we have something which is called the inverse square law, which basically means that with increasing the distance of your source of noise or sound, that's not a linear increasing, it's a square function, an inverse square function. So basically this means if you double the distance between the speaker and the microphone, you only have 1/4 of the intensity of the sound signal left. Or on the other hand, if you can reduce the distance between you and the microphone for half the way, then the signal is improved by a factor 4. So obviously, the best bet that we have, the best thing that we can do is to work on the microphone position. So let's take a closer look what this means for different types of setup and how we can use them. So The first one is the integrated microphone. So sometimes I hear people that obviously use the microphone that is integrated in their computer to give a lecture or teaching. And here we have some problems because on the one hand, we have a pretty big distance between the microphone and the speaker. So obviously the noise is rather big in comparison to the signal. The second thing is that as the microphone is integrated in the computer, you will hear all the sound that your computer produces on the microphone, and this can be very disturbing. So even though maybe you don't realize the fan of your computer, the microphone does realize it, then maybe you have some gain on the way and the audience hears an increased noise. And if you hear this for a long time, this can be very disturbing if you have ever practiced it. So my general conclusion for this setup is very simple. Don't do it. Don't use the integrated microphone and do your audience a favor. So what else could we do? The second setup that is very common is that we use a webcam, and many modern webcams already have a microphone integrated. So we still have the problem of a big distance between the microphone and the speaker. But the good thing is we don't hear the noise from the computer anymore. So what can you take care of in this setup? Well, basically keep in mind that the big distance still contributes to a poor signal-noise ratio. So try to find a position which is on the one hand rather close to you, but that's a conflict again with the camera, because in the camera you don't want to have it, I don't know, 10 inches away from your face. So here we have some conflicting situation. But if you try to find a kind of a good position and you try to be in a silent environment where you reduce the noise from the background, this is something that can work. Some other solution that is very common today is the utilization of a headset. So the headset basically brings the microphone pretty close to the speaker. So we have a pretty good signal-noise ratio. But the other problem here is that if you use a cheap or a poor headset quality, then probably you will hear some irritating noise from the speaker. So you all know the headsets with the earphones and the microphone here in front. And if you have a cheap one, which has the microphone just in front and maybe in a bad direction, or you can work on it by yourself, then this can lead to some very disturbing noises that you don't want to have. So just imagine you have a trainer that you have to listen to for 8 hours a day or something like that. And you always hear the heavy breathing and all other sounds that you don't want to hear. This is not that good. The second thing to consider, and also the reason why I'm not using a headphone, is that if you keep your headphone on your head all the day, in the end your head starts hurting. No matter how good it is, I didn't find any headset which did not hurt after a whole day. So this is, yeah, maybe it's a matter of taste, but I don't like it to have the headphone the whole day. And the other aspect with headphones is, or with a headset is, you have to select between a wireless headset and a wired headset. So if you use a wired one, you probably don't have a problem with battery, but you always have that cable hanging around. That's not so cool. And if you use a wireless one with Bluetooth or something like that, then I always had the problem. I was in a training, and when lunchtime was, I just take it down and I forgot to put it in the charging box. And then I came back, put it on again, and a few minutes later, the headset already tells me battery low. So we are running short on battery. So all in all, the headset, yes, it can work, especially if you only have 2 hours lectures or something like that. But if you're working the whole day, then probably you may find it not that convenient. So what is a good solution then? The best solution, the best bet that we can do is to make an investment in a studio equipment right here, which basically means to buy a studio microphone. Yeah, this maybe sounds like a big deal in the first moment, but it's not that big deal. So you can get good studio microphones with all the mounting equipment, like here in the picture, for around €200. And believe me, your audience will really thank you for that. Because having poor quality in the audio, having disturbing noises, really makes a training very, I don't know, it's very distracting and is not a lot of fun. And as you can imagine, with a studio microphone, you can work on the distance between the microphone and the speaker. There is a good quality. There is a recording pattern, so you can configure it to only record in this area and not sounds from the back. So yeah, that's pretty good. And of course, it's very comfortable because you don't have anything on your head. So if you consider only one investment, my suggestion is to take this one. It really pays. Good. So to bring this topic to a summary and a conclusion. So basically, please bear in mind that the audio quality is really critical for a training and a lecture, but it's an under-considered element. Most people don't spend too much time of thinking about the audio quality, even though it's very dominant. So my suggestion is to really check your sound. Best way is just to make a brief recording, make a take for, I don't know, 3 minutes or something like that, and listen to it. If it's okay from the quality or if there is some disturbing element integrated, so just check your sound. This is a very important suggestion here. Then from your setup, aim for improvement of the signal-noise ratio, which basically means try to increase the level of your signal and decrease the level of noise, which can be very easily achieved by the microphone position. That's the best bet that we have in that case. And really, again, consider the investment in a studio microphone. Your audience will be thankful for that. Yeah, and in terms of the signal processing, the last step of our chain, lucky us. If we do a live session, then all the signal processing is already done by MS Teams or Zoom or stuff like that. And they already do a pretty good job, so we don't need to mind for that. But if you plan to record some lectures or something like that, then probably you will have to consider the quality of recording on your own, which also integrates the filters. And this is what we take a look at in the next video. So see you there and enjoy practicing with it.